All right, here is my audience. Sleep is for the weak, and I'll sleep when I'm dead, are common sayings that have rang through my head as a young adult. Something that I learned to live by. Sleep seemed like a waste of time to me. Why sleep when there's so much to do? This trait has promoted itself in our culture, especially from our heads of state. Ronald Reagan was outspoken in his ability to perform as a head of state on 4 to 5 hours of sleep, something that bolstered his reputation with the public. This idea that great men need little sleep has bled into our culture. What was not known at the time was the true health risks associated with this consecutive lack of sleep. Sadly, Ronald Reagan suffered from Alzheimer's, which can now be directly related to consecutive years of lack of sleep. Here's a chart of the recommended sleep provided by the National Sleep Foundation. As you can see here, young adults and on need 7 to 9 hours of sleep, and that's pretty regular. And in these 7 to 9 hours, there are two main sections of sleep: non-rapid eye movement and rapid eye movement sleep. Rapid eye movement sleep is also known as the point where you experience dreams. Non-rapid eye movement sleep has 4 stages, and these later stages of the 3 and 4 are the most important of the non-REM sleep cycle. It is at this phase where the body begins to repair itself physically, flush out neurotoxins, and prevent the formation of harmful cells such as cancer. This stage is vital to the physical repairs the body needs so desperately after a person has a long day. REM sleep is where someone can experience dreams. This stage of sleep has the opposite effect on the body as the non-REM sleep cycle. It is at this point where our brains perform its emotional repairs. Matthew Walker, a neuroscientist, describes this as overnight therapy, and even goes so far to say that it is a nocturnal balm that takes off the sharp edges of our emotional experiences so that we feel better the next day. Depriving the body of the proper amount of sleep, which happens most often when a person falls asleep intoxicated, causes the body to have what is known as a REM sleep rebound effect, where the body makes an attempt to gather back the missing REM sleep that it has been deprived of. This is the cause of wildly vivid dreams that have been reported by individuals that are lacking the proper amount of sleep. This also explains why people report hallucinations when they stay up for multiple days in a row, as the brain's REM sleep cycle is spilling over into its conscious. The lack of proper sleep leads to many health risks and consequences. Men that sleep an average of 5 to 6 hours a night have reported testosterone levels that are equal to men that are 10 years older than them. The lack of sleep can cause men to age almost a decade when looking at aspects related to testosterone, like muscle growth and other aspects directly related to testosterone. Someone who sleeps less than 4 hours a night can have a 30% reduction in time to physical exhaustion, and even after one night. This effect also takes place on the lungs, where the body will have a reduced carbon dioxide expulsion rate and oxygen intake rate, and this can be affected on a day-to-day basis. However, even the reduction of 1 hour of sleep over one night can have drastic effects on the human body. Daylight savings has a drastic effect on the health of the average person. This is a worldwide experiment performed voluntarily twice a year. And during the section of daylight savings where we lose 1 hour of sleep, there is a reported 24% increase in heart attacks. And the reverse is true when we gain an hour of sleep. There's a reported 21% decrease in heart attacks across American citizens. The power of 1 hour of sleep gained or lost has detrimental effects on the human body. An experiment that I am familiar with myself. As a younger man, I would pride myself on my level of productivity on short hours of sleep. All through high school, I worked every Saturday, and as a result, I would stay out late every Friday night to go out with my friends. And then after 4 hours of sleep, I would drag myself to work at 8 a.m. This resulted in many years of fragmented and incomplete sleep for me. Before stumbling upon the work of Matthew Walker, I believed this was a positive characteristic of mine. and I would boast about my ability to be productive and work 8 to 10 hours on 4 hours or less of sleep. It became a bragging right of mine. Little did I know the negative impacts I was having on my body. My physical performance was lowered, my stamina decreased, and if I continued this trend over the long term, it could have serious health risks. Every person needs to appreciate the sleep that their body requires. In a culture that values binge watching Netflix until the late hours of the night, it's important to remember that if you live by the motto, "I'll sleep when I'm dead," it may come sooner than you think. Here's an excerpt from an interview with the neuroscientist Matthew Walker.
What should someone do if they have a hard time sleeping? Like, say if you're a person who has insomnia, you have a hard time getting to bed, you have a hard time staying asleep. When you wake up, you can't go back to bed.
Yeah.
Are there strategies?
There are. I mean, I think for most people, there are 5 things that you can do just out the gate to get better sleep. Regularity is probably the most important thing I can tell you. Go to bed at the same time, wake up at the same time, no matter whether it's the weekend, weekday. Regularity is key. We've spoken about light. For example, when you, in the last hour before bed, try to stay away from screens, but also just switch off half the lights in the house. You'd be surprised at how soporific that is. It really starts to sort of make you feel a bit more drowsy. They've done some great studies where they would take people out, into the Rockies, no electric light, no electricity whatsoever, and they started to go to bed 2 hours earlier than their acclaimed natural bedtime. It wasn't just because they didn't have anything necessarily to do, it was that their melatonin was rising, 2 hours earlier. So keep it dark. The third is probably keep it cool. Your brain actually needs to drop its temperature by about 2 to 3 degrees Fahrenheit to initiate sleep. And that's the reason that you will always find it easier to fall asleep in a room that's too cold than too hot.
I've seen people use cold pads.
Yeah.
Have you seen those? You sleep on these cold pads? What do you think of those?
Yeah, I mean, the evidence is pretty good that cooling the body actually works. They've, in the book I write about a series of studies where they had people in, it's almost like a wetsuit, but it has all of these veins running through it, and they could actually perfuse warm or cold water into any part of the body, hands, core of the body, feet, and so that you could exquisitely manipulate the temperature of any part of the body. And what they found is that they could effectively cool the body down, and it instantaneously made people fall asleep faster, and it gave them deep non-REM sleep, that sort of restorative sleep for the body.
I hope that these tips can help individuals that struggle with sleep like I have, and now we're going to open it up to the question and answer phase.
Go ahead and start. Based on your findings, do you think that sleeping too much is detrimental as sleeping not enough, or does it not have an effect?
So if I go back to the slide here, sleeping too much is still not ideal. However, sleeping too much is not going to have the same negative health effects that sleeping too little does. It's not going to cause you to lose testosterone. But what it is going to do is it's going to start to restart the sleep cycle, and it's the same effect as when you wake up to an alarm and you hit snooze, and you wake up and you feel like you could get up, but you want a few more minutes of sleep, so you go back to sleep. Your body's actually restarting the stages of sleep, and every time you interrupt it and restart it, it's jumping to a new stage of sleep. So it'll make you feel more drowsy during the day and feel like you actually didn't get enough sleep.
Okay.
How has this new information changed your sleep patterns?
It has made me be more aware of the impacts that the sleep is having on me. It's not an overnight change to be able to fix the sleep habits that I have so concrete in my brain, but it makes me aware of when I wake up, why I'm feeling drowsy, why I'm low energy, and I can actually feel the physical exhaustion that they talk about and how I lose my stamina throughout the day.
How do you think our ancestors conquered this, or do you think this is like something that throughout evolution we learned to do?
So during the pre-electricity phases of life, there was a natural rise in melatonin as the sun went down, because the light is the direct trigger towards the release of that chemical in our brain that helps us sleep. But if you go back even before we were as civilized and we were more in the tribal aspect of life, people would sleep 2 times during the day. They would sleep at night briefly for 4 to 5 hours, and then in the middle of the day when it was the hottest, they would then sleep again. And a lot of that is the cause of why people have that 2 p.m. feeling where they have a crash in the middle of the day, is because naturally we were going back to sleep at that time when it was the hottest and too hard to work.
Okay.
Cool.
Good. Nice speech, Kyle. Clap, clap.
Thank you.